We'll continue or rather finish off a short topic that is blood transfusion and complications. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what are the topics that are important in this presentation is blood and blood components is a commonly asked question, and the complications of massive transfusion is very commonly asked question. Okay. Then excuse me. So what is blood transfusion? Blood transfusion is the infusion of whole blood or a blood component, which is red blood cells, platelets, plasma, into the patient's venous circulation. Okay. History of transfusions. Transfusions have started since the mid 1600s, whereas the first successful transfusion was done in 1828. Okay. In the year 1900, that is the start of 20th century, Landsteiner described ABO blood groups, which is a landmark in blood transfusions. Then in 1916, the first use of storage of blood was done, and it was commonly done in CPD, what do you call it? Citrate phosphate and dextrose medium. Okay. Then 1939, Levine described the RH factor. What are the indications? Therapeutic indications to restore the intravascular volume with whole blood or albumin, to restore the oxygen carrying capacity to the blood by replacing red blood cells, and to replace the clotting factor and correction of anemia. Usually, what you give is around 330 ml of blood is given per unit, that is 1 point of blood, and it contains about 50 to 60% of hematocrit. That is, it increases the oxygen carrying capacity by that much. Blood components. What are the different blood components? Red blood cells, platelets, plasma. Plasma as in cryoprecipitate and other coagulation factors. Okay. Then the other plasma proteins would include coagulation factors, albumin, growth factors, colloid volume expanders. Okay. Apheresis may also be used to collect the blood components. And coming to the different components, let's talk about whole blood now. It is stored for up to 35 days with 4 degrees Celsius, and the medium most commonly used nowadays is SAGM medium. Okay. It is the indications for whole blood transfusion would be massive blood loss, trauma, exchange transfusion. Then considerations as what you have to keep in mind is you have to use a filter, as platelets and coagulation factors will not be active after 3 to 5 days, and donor and recipient blood must be ABO identical. Then RBC concentrate, it can also be stored at 4 degrees Celsius for up to 42 days, but also can be frozen. And the indications for RBC transfusion would be acute massive loss, anemia, hypoxia. Then what you must keep in mind is the recipient must not have antibodies to donor RBCs. Then usually the transfusion should be over 2 to 4 hours. That is, it should be slow for chronic anemia because rapid correction will lead to greater side effects. And platelets. Storage is up to 5 days at 20 to 24 degrees Celsius. Indications would be thrombocytopenia, the most common condition causing thrombocytopenia acute is dengue, as you all know. Then bleeding, platelet count which is less than 50,000 during surgeries. Okay, and invasive procedure with platelet count less than 50,000. The considerations are 1 unit per 10 kgs of body weight increases platelet count by only 50,000. So you have to correct accordingly. Then donor and recipient must also be ABO identical with platelets. Plasma and FFP, they are coagulation factors usually. And FFP at 12 months can be stored for up to 12 months at minus 18 degrees Celsius or colder temperatures. Indications would be coagulation factor deficiency, fibrinogen replacement, DIC, liver disease, exchange transfusion, and massive transfusions. And in children, the plasma and FFP should also be RH compatible, and the usual dose is around 20 cc per kg. Cryoprecipitate. The precipitate formed and collected when FFP is thawed at 4 degrees Celsius is known as cryoprecipitate. It has mainly factor 8 and factor 11, that is coagulation factor 8 and coagulation factor 13, sorry. And von Willebrand's its usual indications are von Willebrand disease or factor 8 and 13 deficiency, DIC, and fibrinogen deficiency or dysfibrinogenemia. It can also be collected and stored up to 1 year at minus 18 degrees Celsius, and it should also be ABO compatible. But it is not compulsory that it has to be ABO and compatible. They can be used without complete compatibility also. Then granulocyte transfusions. These are done in severe neutropenia in immunocompromised individuals. The donor is given granulocyte colony stimulating factor and steroids to increase the production of granulocytes, and then they are collected. They result in severe allergic reactions, which has to be kept in mind. And graft versus host disease is also common, and which has to be kept in mind and prevented by irradiating them. Then, how do you give blood? What are the steps in blood transfusion? Usually, you prepare a site, then check for the donor blood. You check the packet if it is at the right temperature. Then you cannulize the patient with a wide bore cannula. Usually 18 gauge or even bigger cannulas can be used. Then uh, then you write the instructions. You start the blood transfusion at a slow rate, that is around 3 to 4 drops per minute, and then you continue it, slowly increase the pace, and you can end it at around 12 to 12, 10 to 12 drops per minute. And usually the process should take about 4 to 6 hours. In India, the amount of blood that is collected in one point is around 330 ml, whereas in other countries it can be even more, around 450 to 540 ml can be given. Now, warming of blood is very important, as hypothermia is a very common complication of transfusion, and it will lead to common reactions like chills and which needs stopping of blood transfusion. Hence, warming of blood should be kept in mind before starting transfusion to reduce the side effects. Now, what are the transfusion related complications? There are acute transfusion reactions, chronic transfusion reactions, and transfusion related infections. Acute transfusion reactions would be hemolytic reactions, febrile reactions, allergic reactions, TRALI, that is transfusion related acute lung injury, coagulopathy with massive transfusions, and bacteremia. Now, what are acute hemolytic transfusion reactions? It occurs when incompatible RBCs are transferred into a recipient who has preformed antibodies. Usually, it occurs with Rh positivity and Rh negativity, whereas ABO incompatibility is also commonly seen. Then antibodies activate the complement system, causing intravascular hemolysis. If it is severe, it can lead to disseminated intravascular coagulation also. Then symptoms will occur immediately after after starting transfusion, that is within a few minutes. Then it can occur with as little as around 5 ml of RBCs also. Most common problem that you have to look for will be labeling error in the blood bank. They can be fatal. Now, what are the symptoms of acute hemolytic transfusion reactions? High fever with chills, hypotension, back or abdominal pain, oliguria, dyspnea, dark urine, and pallor would be the complications. And immediately you have to stop the transfusion, give steroids to the patient, that is one shot of hydrocortisone. Then you have to maintain the airway, breathing, and circulation. Maintain the IV access and run IV fluids continuously. BP monitoring should be done. Diuretics should be given. Then we have to check for what went wrong. That is, you take back the blood, that is stopped blood, to the blood bank and check if it is labeled properly, and if cross matching should be done again. Then blood grouping typing should also be done again, and blood culture needs to be done if everything is normal. Then what are the lab findings? Hemoglobinemia, hemoglobinuria, hyperbilirubinemia, abnormal DIC panel. Then how do you monitor? You monitor the clinical status, vital signs till the urine output becomes normal. Monitor the renal status. Then monitor the coagulation status, that is fibrinogen levels, antithrombin 3 levels. DIC panel should be checked for. And monitoring the signs of hemolysis like LDH, bilirubin levels, and haptoglobin levels in the blood. Next, febrile non-hemolytic transfusion reactions, that is any in any blood transfusion patient, if the temperature of the patient rises by 1 degree Celsius after starting the blood transfusion, you call it as febrile non-hemolytic transfusion reactions. It is usually less severe. It occurs in approximately 1% of the transfusions, but it is more common with platelet transfusions, whereas RBC transfusions it is lesser. So febrile non-hemolytic transfusion reactions are caused by alloantibodies that are directed against HLA antigens, and these needs to be evaluated for AHTR, that is acute hemolytic transfusion reactions and infection also. Then what to do? Again, stop transfusion, give antipyretics, that is paracetamol commonly. Then use of corticosteroids for severe reactions. If chills are there, narcotics like tramadol should be given. Then further considerations is you have to use a leukocyte filter. Single donor platelets should be used if it is because of platelet transfusion. Fresh platelets should be used. Washed RBCs or platelets are better. Then comes allergic non-hemolytic transfusion reactions. It is because of plasma proteins or blood preservatives or anticoagulants. Is best characterized by immunoglobulin A, that is given to immunoglobulin A deficient patients in anti-IgA antibodies. Okay, it presents with urticaria and wheezing. Mild reactions should be treated with antihistaminic and continued. Whereas severe reactions, you must stop the blood transfusion and it requires steroid transfusions. Then prevention or pre-medication, again antihistaminics can reduce the reactions if it is given before transfusion. Then transfusion related acute lung injury, it is a severe reaction that can happen and it is similar to acute respiratory distress syndrome. It occurs within 1 to 6 hours. It is caused by WBC antibodies that is present in the donor blood and it will result in pulmonary leukostasis. There is no definitive treatment, it is only supportive treatment with oxygen and monitoring, continuous monitoring to mortality with. So massive blood transfusion. What is characterized as massive blood transfusion? It is defined as a replacement of blood, whole patient's volume of blood in less than 24 hours, or a single transfusion of blood that is continuously given, that is more than 2.5 liters. Okay, it is used in severe trauma, that is road traffic accidents usually, where there is continuous blood loss due to liver injury, major vessel injury, cardiac injuries, pulmonary or pelvic injuries. So what happens in major massive transfusions? Coagulopathy is the most common complication because of massive amounts of blood transfused, because there is a failure to replace the plasma. And what are the common abnormalities? Because the blood given is deficient in calcium, there is hypocalcemia, okay, which will lead to all the side effects that can be caused because of hypocalcemia, like any arrhythmias, okay. And also there is breakdown of the stored RBCs, which may lead to decreased oxygen carrying capacity. Oh, bacterial contamination. Bacterial contamination is more common with platelet transfusions again. Gram-positive organisms usually. And in RBCs, the most common organisms characterized would be Yersinia and Enterobacter. Then the risk increases as the age of the blood products increase. That is, the storage time after it increases, the risk also increases. Then your chronic transfusion reactions. First comes alloimmunization, then graft versus host disease, iron overload, and transfusion transmitted infections. Alloimmunization, it will occur with platelets or erythrocytes. Antigen disparity of minor antigens like Kelly antigens, Duffy antigens, KID antigens that are seen in rare blood groups are most common causes for this. With repeated transfusions, these occur. Minor antigens like DKE in sickle cell anemia patients also can lead to this. Then in platelets, it is due to repeated platelet transfusions, which is not HLA matched. Then leukoreduction might reduce the alloimmunization that is seen with this. Then transfusion associated GVHD, it is mainly seen in infants and uh, SCID patients. Then etiology would be engraftment of donor lymphocytes of an incompetent donor into an immunocompromised host. That is, an immunocompetent donor lymphocytes you are giving into an immunocompromised host. This will lead to diarrhea, skin rash, and pancytopenia. It is usually fatal because there is no treatment. Prevention would be irradiation of donor cells. Then transfusion associated infections, the most common infections that you screen for would be HIV, then hepatitis B, hepatitis C. Cytomegalovirus infections can also be seen. Bacterial infection is because of usually faulty storage, and then you don't keep it in the required temperature in the fridge, and this might lead to transfusion of the infected blood might lead to severe septicemia in the recipient and also rapid death if it is not detected and treated immediately. And endemic areas, there can be transmission of parasitic infections also like malaria. What are leukocyte reduction filters? They are used in prevention of these transfusion reactions. They are used to filter the non-essential components like platelets, cryoprecipitate, RBC, which are common causes for reactions. Okay, and other plasma proteins like albumin, colloid expanders, all these factors, they do not need filters. Whereas you have to never use filters for stem cell transplantation or stem cell infusions with bone and also bone marrow infusions. And it does not prevent graft versus host disease. So this is not the treatment for graft versus host disease. What is autologous blood transfusion? In a healthy individual, when you are anticipating blood loss due to major surgeries, you collect the blood before 21 days of procedure and then process it and store it for transfusion at a later date when it is necessary for the patient. Okay, this will have very less infection rate and also other problems associated with it because it is the patient's own blood and all the graft versus host disease and other reactions would be very less. So in a healthy individual, if there is no infection, hematocrit more than 30%, they can donate blood before around 3 weeks before surgery, and this can be processed and transfused back into patient after 3 weeks. That is during surgery if necessary. Then your recycled blood. In major surgeries, if there is significant amount of blood loss and the patient requires multiple transfusions, the blood that is sucked out can be processed through a sterile system, filtered and reused again in the patient. This will also reduce the amount of transfusion that is necessary from outside source. Okay, and also will reduce the number of complications that can be seen. Okay, any doubts? Hello, Seer?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, any if there are no doubts, then we'll end the session because it's a short topic.
Okay, sir.
Anybody else?